At the heart of the game of cricket is a duel between a batsman and a bowler. A fast bowler can send the ball at fantastic speeds. The ball reaches the batsman in half a second. At times, it travels too fast for the human brain to react to. The ball seems to defy the laws of physics. During this battle, there is only room for one general, the captain. He's the man who must manipulate minds in this match. In this program, we'll discover why the ball swings, how science can help fast bowlers bowl faster, how to make a bat for a world-class player, and what it takes to be a world-class player. To outsiders, cricket can seem a strange and alien world. The players wear white. The ball plays tricks on the mind. It's a game of mysterious skills and a language of its own. Googly, Yorker, Cutter, Golden Duck. It can last for days. It demands the stamina of an athlete, the flexibility of a gymnast, the strength of a javelin thrower, and the mind of a chess grandmaster. But at its heart, it is a battle between a batsman and a bowler. True cricket fans know the game's many rules, but here's a beginner's guide. There are 2 teams of 11. The bowler bowls to the batsman. He tries to score runs by sprinting from where he bats to the second wicket, where the bowler bowled from. To get the batsman out, fielders try to catch the ball or throw the ball at the wickets to knock them over. Depending on the competition, the game can last between 1 and 5 days. Although the rules were invented 300 years ago, it's science that is now helping shape the modern game. These men are the undisputed masters of cricket, the Australian national team. Their greatest spin bowler, Shane Warne. He's taken nearly 500 wickets. Their best one-day batsman, Michael Bevan, dominates the game. The Australians have cricketing stars. Brett Lee, one of the youngest and most lethal fast bowlers. The world's most successful captain, Steve Waugh, who scored nearly 10,000 runs. The Australians are supremely fit. They're mentally tough. They use science to stay world beaters. Because they're the best, players from all over the world come to Australia to learn from their success. The English invented cricket, but the national team is underachieving. These young cricketers from the English National Academy have turned to their old enemy, Australia, for help. Rod Marsh, Australia's best ex-wicketkeeper, has been given the job of transforming this new generation of cricketers into men who can beat the Australians.
I mean, his rhythm, well, he hasn't got a rhythm, because I don't think he's ever practiced bowling 2 balls the same.
No.
Because these young cricketers are England's future hope, they're given the best that science can offer. At the elite Australian Institute of Sport, they have the best scientific advice available from their physiologist, fitness instructor and psychologist. The first thing the AIS demands is peak physical fitness. The squad have a grueling fitness schedule. Their physiologist, Richard Smith, has some tough advice for them.
We're looking for all-round athleticism, so it's not specific necessary conditioning. They need to be good athletes, and increasingly, certainly in one-day cricket, athleticism is a key marker of performance.
To raise their game, there will have to be sacrifices.
These guys will get used to the fact that they can't afford to drink if they're going to train properly with the training workloads we give them, because they simply won't be able to do the job at training. 1 or 2 beers isn't going to hurt them, or 1 or 2 glasses of wine, but I mean, Gone are the days, like my time, for example, where when you basically drank and ate what you wanted. Things are different now. They're professionals, and the game has changed in that area.
The English are not the only team to ask Australia for help. The under-19 Bangladeshis are training here too. They too are being whipped into shape to give them explosive power, strength, speed and endurance. But the Australians know that today's cricketers must also work on their mental fitness to survive in the modern game. Above all, international cricket is all in the mind.
Mentally, it's very difficult to separate batsmen, bowlers, wicketkeepers. I mean, mentally, you have to be able to focus on what you're doing. You have to be able to, not only during a match, but at training, you have to get your priorities right in the first instance. And I think once you've reached a certain ability, it's your mental approach to the game that separates you from the rest of the players.
In the science of cricket, we'll see just how big a role psychology plays in this battle between batsman and bowler. A bowler can crush a batsman by bowling at bone-breaking speed. In part 2, we'll look at the science behind this confrontation and explain how a bowler uses physics and aerodynamics to break the batsman.
Wasim Akram is the bowler and Gooch is taking...
Fast bowlers, pacemen. These are the players who open the bowling, launching balls at batsmen at speeds of up to 90 miles, that's 144 kilometres per hour, in the hope of getting them out or turning them into nervous wrecks.
Oh, that's beautifully bowled.
Pakistan legend Wasim Akram bowls out Graham Hick in the England-Pakistan Test Series in 1992.
Oh, look at that. The perfect in-swinging Yorker.
His bowling partner, Waqar Younis, continues to torment the English.
That in-swinging Yorker again, he's got him.
Big shout, and that's out. Another wicket falls, and England are really in trouble now.
According to the Bangladeshis coach Troy Cooley, fast bowlers have to have something special.
Okay, let's change it over.
A big heart and an ability to go through the pain barrier, and obviously some genetics in there as well, and a very good work ethic to be a fast bowler that stays on the track for a long period of time.
A fast bowler's heart rate can reach almost 190 beats per minute. They sprint at 21.6 kilometres, 13.5 miles per hour for long periods of time.
He's got to be quick, he's got to be agile, he's got to be flexible. So those sort of things are what you need in a fast bowler. And he needs to be able to sustain a pretty heavy impact. I mean, there's a lot of weight going down through as he jumps up and lands on the ground. So he needs to have a good strength base as well.
It's an unnatural skill, and it puts abnormal demands on the body. Here at the Australian Institute of Sport, biomechanist Mark Portas works with the sporting elite. Biomechanics is the study of human movement. Mark uses this new technique to analyse fast bowling.
We've used a classification criteria in research just because it helps us determine what are the major problems for back injuries in particular and trunk injuries in fast bowlers.
There are two main types of fast bowling. Choose the wrong one and you risk serious injury. This is a side-on technique, where the hips and shoulders are parallel to the line of flight of the ball. Then there's the front-on technique, where the bowler faces the batsman. It was used by the great West Indian bowler Courtney Walsh to terrorise batsmen for 17 years.
Where our problems are caused is predominantly a variation of the front-on technique, and that's where bowlers don't maintain their front-on position through the whole delivery stride. And you can see here, this bowler here at back foot contact, the bowler is in a front-on position, i.e. chest is facing towards the batter and so are the hips. But in between back foot contact and front foot contact, These shoulders have counter-rotated, they've moved to a more side-on position. So you can see here shoulders very front-on, here shoulders very side-on. And at this stage the hips are tending to start to rotate towards the batter anyway, so you can see there's a twisting mechanism happening. The hips are going one way, shoulders are going the other way.
To see how fast bowling can go wrong, Mark and a colleague cover a bowler with sensors which high-speed infrared cameras pick up. This is Jason Gulbin, an academic at the AIS who likes a game of cricket. Mark then uses computer software to create a digital model showing Jason's bowling action.
Jason came in and tried hard for us, but news isn't all good for Jason. He's what we call a side-on mixed technique. So he starts in the lower body side-on, but his upper body is front-on, but then it counter-rotates. And just to show you here, there's Jason's back foot contact, and you can see in his lower body, his pelvis there is quite side-on to us, whereas he's quite front-on in the shoulders. One saving grace Jason may have is that because he's starting in a side-on position with his lower body, we seem to suspect that they don't seem to have as much torsion in their lumbar spine than the ones that are starting front-on in lower and upper body.
Others are not as lucky. At its best, fast bowling is so energy demanding, it can destroy the body. Australian star Brett Lee is a very fast bowler. But 5 years ago, when he was only 20, his career seemed over. He broke his back.
I think the reason why I probably got a sore back was the counter rotation. I mean, I'm no physiotherapist, but I thought that I had like a mixed action, and that comes down to my bottom half was front on, my top half was side on, so I had all that counter rotation moving, and yeah, just that sort of wear and tear broke my back basically.
Brett turned to Mark for some scientific advice. Mark discovered that Brett had a contorted side-on technique. His hips faced forwards, but he turned his shoulders, twisting his spine. A comparison with fellow Australian fast bowler Glenn McGrath showed just what a strain he was putting on his body. Glenn is a lot taller, but the two men's stride lengths are very similar. Brett keeps his legs straight. On impact, over 5 times his body weight goes through his knee joint. Glenn bends his knee to lessen this shock.
We think you don't transfer as much of the energy into ball release, and you lose ball release speed by flexing your front leg. So there's a bit of a trade-off. You're probably saving your back a little bit and absorbing more shock in your limbs, your lower limbs, than your lower back. But you're probably not getting as much ball speed as you would, because you don't get that lever and that whip effect, which is definitely what Brett gets.
Brett's bowling is explosive, but he needed help from science to channel his power. Mark's advice helped Brett change to front on. He's also been on a rigorous training regime.
To get that rehab going again, I did heaps of swimming, heaps of stretching. I found that once I took the pressure off my hamstrings, it's taken heaps of pressure off my lower back, and it starts to feel a lot better.
Brett is now back to his best, bowling up to 156 kilometres, that's almost 100 miles an hour. Not every bowler has or wants this speed, but other bowlers use more subtle arts. As well as fast bowling, there is swing and spin. Swing is a strange phenomenon. The ball mysteriously arcs in mid-air. This is Australian Nathan Bracken, swing bowler for the New South Wales Blues, playing against the Queensland Bulls. Watch, as he bowls to his right, the ball swings to the left, in towards the batsman. Alex Tudor is a swing bowler with the English Academy. He's come to Australia to fulfil his dream of being a permanent fixture on the English team.
I've always wanted to play for England, and I've been lucky enough where it's happened to me at an early age. I've been playing now for 7 years, and my aim now here is to get fit and to get myself back in England side, which I know will happen once my injuries are sorted out, and that's really what drives me on in cricket.
Alex explains how to swing.
What I generally do, and my team tries to do, what we're trying to do is shine one side of the ball, polish it. You may see cricketers on the TV, you know, get a bit of saliva, put it all over the one side of the ball, and you can generally sometimes see when they're playing a cricket match that one, you know, their pants are very, very red, and people always, you know, ladies sometimes always ask why they always polishing. What they do is trying to make the side very shiny. Generally you sort of tilt the seam towards first slip, and you keep your wrist generally quite locked behind, keeping your thumb, as hopefully you can see here on the side down the seam. And what it does, it tends to cock your wrist, so your action is going that way to get the away shape. And generally that is, hopefully, if I was to bowl a delivery, the ball should hopefully shape out.
But what is making the ball swing? We asked physicists from the University of Sheffield to find out. Matt Carey has put a cricket ball inside this wind tunnel. Jets of smoke blast down the tunnel to simulate the flow of air around a ball travelling at high speed.
To get swing with a cricket ball, you have to have a ball that's asymmetric. So you have a smooth side to the ball here, you have a rough side here, and you point the seam in this direction if you want the ball to travel in this direction. Because this side is smooth, the airflow around this side of the ball is what we call laminar flow, which is a very smooth, ordered flow. But because of how the laminar flow operates, it separates from the ball quite early. So the boundary layer might separate around here. So you get a wake behind this side of the ball in this direction. On the other side, however, you have flow which is laminar to begin with. It reaches the seam, and the seam trips it into turbulent flow. So you have a turbulent boundary layer, and a turbulent boundary layer will stick to the ball for longer and separate later. So you end up with a resultant wake coming in this direction. Therefore you have a force acting on the ball in this direction. So as the ball travels through the air, it will swing in the direction that the seam is pointing, like that.
We're looking at the ball from above. It's travelling in this direction. It's coated with a layer of air that flows round the ball called the boundary layer. This layer clings to the shiny side and then leaves the ball, causing a wake. The boundary layer is tripped by the seam and becomes turbulent on the rough side. This turbulent layer sticks to the ball for longer. The wake puts more pressure on this side of the ball, making it swing to the right. Scientists have discovered that the best swing happens when the ball is new and travelling at 70 miles or 113 kilometers per hour. Changing the direction of the seam alters the way the ball will swing. In the 1970s, the great Pakistani captain Imran Khan discovered he could turn this science on its head. Imran found that he could swing the ball in reverse. Reverse swing happens when the ball swings in the opposite direction to conventional swing.
The Pakistanis, they do it brilliantly, and what happens, obviously, because it's so dry, the surface, when the ball rolls along the floor, it gets very much scuffed up. So what happens is basically both sides are pretty much roughed up, and what they generally do is they won't get their sweaty palms on the ball, and what they'll try and do is just make sure that their palms are away from the ball, because they don't want the ball to get wet.
Imran had no idea why the ball swung in reverse. He asked a childhood friend, Rabi Mehta, now a NASA scientist, who then spent years exploring the science behind reverse swing. This is what he and other physicists discovered.
The ball is delivered in exactly the same way, but now you can see the whole ball is rougher. What happens now is you have turbulence on both sides of the ball. So as the air is travelling around the ball on this side, it's turbulent and it will separate fairly late. On this side of the ball, the flow is turbulent before it reaches the seam, and the seam causes the turbulent boundary layer to thicken. Because it's a thicker layer, it leaves earlier. So in this case, the wake is in this direction. This means you have a resultant force on the ball in this direction, causing it to reverse swing, like so. Now the batsman's expecting it to go that way, because he can see the seam, but it goes in the opposite direction.
The ball is travelling in this direction. Air is turbulent round both sides of the ball, but when it reaches the seam, it's tripped and becomes even thicker. this thick layer peels away from the ball earlier, putting pressure on this side of the ball so the ball swings to the left. But what no one really understands is why the ball swings more during some matches than others. Rod Marsh.
The times it swings most, as far as I'm concerned, is when there is this apparent bed of humidity over the pitch. That to me is when the ball really does swing more than other times. Now why this happens, I don't know, but I just know it happens, and as long as I can recognise the fact that it is going to happen as a player or as a coach, then I'm quite happy with that.
Perhaps the most mysterious of the bowling arts is spin. Australian Shane Warne is a master. This was Shane's very first ball against England in 1993, and he bowled out the captain, Mike Gatting.
Perfectly pitched leg spinner, pitching just outside leg with a little bit of curve, and that's a beautiful delivery.
Shane almost single-handedly made the long-lost art of spin fashionable again. As a result, he's occupied a central place in the Australian team for the last decade. Cricket academies are full of Shane wannabes.
There is a pace at which you get maximum spin, a pace that you'll get the minimum. That's your maximum. Beautiful.
Spin coach Terry Jenner explained the basics.
Spin is in your fingers and your wrist, so a nice, comfortable grip. Not the same for everybody, but there is a basic grip which spreads the ball pretty evenly through your fingers. The idea for a leg spin bowler is not to try and spin with his thumb, but you either rest the thumb on the ball or take it away. And then the index finger pulls down and the fourth finger, or the ring finger, spins up.
What makes a great spinner?
The gift of spin is in the fingers and wrist. It's truly a gift, because you can't take someone off the street and say, gee, you got a good build, you look like Shane Warne, I'll teach you how to bowl leg spin or off spin. It doesn't work like that. It's a gift that somehow or other people are born with, because it's an unnatural thing to sort of be able to turn your fingers and wrist over and impart that sort of the revolutions on the ball. And when you think that a spin bowler, and this is what's made Shane Warne so great, a spin bowler, flicking it out of his hand like that, has to send it through the air and land it in an area about half a metre round. It's an amazing art.
There he is, quicker one into the park.
Some people are born with a gift of spin, like Indian player Anil Kumble. Another star, Sri Lankan bowler Mattaya Muralitharan, bowls unerringly accurately. But his delivery was so extraordinary he was investigated for throwing instead of bowling. The investigators discovered he was born with double-jointed wrists and a bent arm. Can science explain why the ball spins?
Big spin all over.
A spin bowler will put spin on a ball in all kinds of ways. And usually the main point of putting spin on a ball is the interaction between the ball and the pitch. So for instance, if the ball is spinning when it hits the pitch, it will deviate in that direction.
The ball will also interact with the airflow. If a bowler puts topspin on the ball, it will dip. If he backspins it, it will stay high. Bowlers have one more thing on their side. The pitch can be an ally. Some spinners are expert at getting the ball to hit the pitch on the seam, so it bounces erratically. The ball could go anywhere depending on the surface. Mud, grass, cracks, lumps, all have their own insidious effect on the ball's trajectory. What the pitch is like both at the start and the end of the match can alter how well the bowler plays.
The pitch has a big say. For example, if you look at a test match, the pitch invariably doesn't spin in the first 2 or 3 days. As it moves into the 3rd and 4th and 5th days, the wicket starts to get crumbly, and then the ball can grip the dirt and spin. But when there's excessive grass on there, when the ball rotates through the air, as it hits, it won't grip, it'll just skid. So the pitch is very important.
But what's a batter to do faced with a bowler like Brett Lee, delivering balls at 100 miles or 156 kilometres an hour? Or a twisting spinner that might deviate any which way when it hits the pitch? He's got milliseconds to decide where the ball is heading and how he's going to play the shot. In part 3, we find out how batsmen cope. In this gladiatorial contest, one man is at the receiving end, the batsman, and it's a dangerous place to be.
It's beautifully bowled, right at the throat. Got straight into it.
English bowler Alex Tudor knows the damage a fast ball can cause.
When a ball sometimes is coming at you, be it 80, 90 mile an hour that some of these guys bowl it now, it's pretty frightening. The ball is pretty heavy, 5.5 ounces, coming at you at that pace. If you're not wearing the right protection, it can break ribs, break feet, send people to hospital.
Nowadays, cricketers prepare for battle with as much protection as possible. But in the modern game, modern body armour still can't prevent the smallest but most damaging of injuries. Nearly half of all injuries are to the first finger on the batting hand. How do batsmen play a ball coming at them at an unpredictable speed, about to bounce wildly off a pitch of uncertain hardness? Terry Jenner explains.
If I was facing one of mine, I'd make a lot of runs. But if I was facing a leg spin bowler, play the ball on its merit. Don't preconceive what you think the ball might be. It's the same when you're playing fast bowling. If you think, boy, I think he's about to bowl me a short one, and you start to head that way and it's well pitched up, you're in big trouble. So you should never preconceive what the ball's going to be.
If the ball is going to reverse into you, you want to try and get your arms free. So we try and give ourselves room, step away to the leg side, and try and get our arms through in a nice arc, so we're sort of hitting down the ground, sort of to mid on and mid off, and wide mid wicket. And then generally, when you're bowling in swing, that's where you most probably will see a lot of batsmen trying to aim.
Coaches say to try and keep an eye on the ball, but sometimes the ball moves too fast for the human brain to react to it. The batsman only has milliseconds to make a decision about how to play the ball, and to hit it accurately, he has to judge where the ball will land to within an area the size of a large postage stamp. To find out how batsmen cope, we went into the lab. Here at Liverpool John Moores University, sports scientist Mark Williams is using a visual tracking device to analyse exactly where Richard Pinio, a professional counties cricketer, looks when facing a fast bowler. The computer picks up exactly where Richard is focusing using an infrared camera mounted on his helmet. The white dot shows where he's looking. What Mark has found is that Richard watches the bowler before the ball is released.
What we found was that batsman is actually very stable in terms of his gaze pattern and tends to fixate primarily on the head and shoulders of the bowler for most of the run-up phase. So this is the kind of midpoint within the run-up, and as you can see, the little white cursor here is fixated primarily on the shoulders and the head region.
When watching a fast bowler, he looks at his shoulder region. He can only track the ball for about 200 milliseconds. A very skilled cricketer would then anticipate where he thinks the ball would land. When facing spin, Richard looks at the bowler's hand.
The white cursor is located around the area of the ball, so they try and pick up information early on, perhaps from the way that the spin bowler is actually holding the ball. And also it seems that as far as this particular batsman is concerned, that the left arm and the left shoulder is quite important. This is a right-handed bowler.
Stanley, an amateur, doesn't always manage to look at the bowler.
Perhaps what's happening here is that the novice batsman is really unsure in terms of where he should be fixating, and as a consequence decides to look everywhere to try and extract the important information.
According to Mark Williams, A good batsman combines experience, expert hand-eye coordination, and phenomenal powers of concentration. But even if the batsman knows roughly where the ball is going to be, what's the best batting technique?
Just what I'd like to see you do a little bit more is you're getting your front foot to the pitch of the ball okay, but you've got to transfer your weight. All right, you understand what I mean by...
Ex-player turned coach Rick Darling goes through the basics of batting.
I want to see you transfer your weight by bending your knee, all right, and hit the ball into the ground. Thank you. Good. You must teach them the basic fundamentals of cricket, all right? Now, that starts with the grip, with the hands evenly spaced on the handle as such like that, but more importantly, the V's. The V I made there with my thumb and forefinger on both hands should be pointing more or less down the back of the bat there, okay? So that's the basic grip. From there we'll move on to the basic stance, which is the bat tucks in here behind the back foot, all right? Feet evenly spaced apart with the knees slightly bent. Very important to have the knees slightly bent because that means you're more evenly balanced, okay? And from that position I can move forward easily or back easily.
The science of biomechanics can help a batsman improve his technique. At Sheffield Hallam University, our pro, Richard Pinio, is put through his paces. Infrared cameras record his batting, which is then automatically converted to a digital image. Biomechanist Roger Bartlett explains what makes a good batsman.
You're using all of the muscles of the body, so you're trying to lead with your legs, then bring your trunk and your arms into the shot. And if you do this, you tend to finish up with a very smooth and a well-timed action, and it looks smooth and well-timed rather than trying to hit the ball too hard. If you use your muscles properly and in the right sequence, then the shot will always look very well-controlled and well-timed, and the ball will kind of fly off the bat to the boundary, almost looking quite effortless.
If I'm thinking about anything other than just the ball, then it's going to be a detraction from my shot, so I tend to just stand with the bat raised in a comfortable position.
Beautiful shot.
India produces some of the best batsmen in the world. This is Sunil Gavaskar. He's a classic batsman with a textbook delivery. In his 17-year career, Sunny played in 348 matches and scored nearly 26,000 runs.
A single takes Gavaskar on to 221, his high score in Test match cricket.
Stand and deliver. Fellow cricketing legend West Indian Brian Lara doesn't play according to the laws of biomechanics. He holds his bat above his head, as if he's playing baseball. It takes real genius to break the rules. He has the highest test score ever, 375 against England in 1994.
Well, that is dead straight down the ground.
Brian Lara starts with his bat in the conventional place, which is down by his feet, but then he has a very, very rapid and a very pronounced backswing, which means that he has a lot of momentum to transfer from the backswing into the downswing. But I think it's more than just the biomechanics and some slightly unconventional biomechanics of the stroke. I think it relies probably more on how that batsman is able to interpret the cues from the bowler and to read those cues very quick so that they can make very, very late adjustments to the stroke.
But it takes more than unconventional biomechanics to become a great batsman. Batsmen use their powers of concentration to get into the zone. Sports psychologist Steve Bull explains.
I wish I could tell you exactly how to get into the zone, but if I could, I'd probably be living on my own personal island in Hawaii and appearing on the Oprah Winfrey Show. It's an elusive concept, but essentially what we do know is that when cricketers are in the zone, they tend to describe the experience as being effortless, supreme confidence. They don't have to think about what their body's doing. They achieve this sense of perfect rhythm almost.
Rod Marsh knows how elusive this concept can be.
Some days I felt as though I was going to make runs and hit a couple of really good shots and then got out, and other days I didn't think I was prepared mentally. I didn't think I was ready. I thought the opposition maybe was too good. I thought the pitch conditions didn't suit me, and then I get a decent score. And at the end of it, I'd say, well, how the hell did I do that? And I must have been in the zone to have done it. But what that zone was, I mean, to me as a batsman, was very difficult to recognise. Otherwise, I would have got more runs, I suppose.
Science can help cricketers with their batting, but in this battle, they need to choose their weapon well. Eric Loxton handcrafts bats for the best cricket players.
I know this one will be good enough for a world-class player. In fact, it is for a world-class player. It's for Mark Butchers. And Mark is not very particular, but there's little things that he does like. One of them is in here, where I'm pulling this out now. He likes it right in there. This top edge, he likes it a bit thinner. Really thinner up here, coming wider, just tapering off a little bit there. He also likes this toe blended in and a bit longer. Now I know when Mark Butcher gets hold of that, I know that'll be okay. If I'd have left that a bit longer and a bit more wood in there, he'd have felt it straight away and sent it back.
Eric has an instinctive feel for what makes a good bat. He designs them around a fundamental scientific principle, the sweet spot. It's where the ball hits the bat best. Almost no force will be transmitted to the hands.
The sweet spot is the best area in the bat where it pings off, and that little sweet sound. That's why they call it sweet. You know, they'll drive a ball, oh, that was sweet. And it is, it's a sweet, nice ping of a sound.
Not only does a bat with a sweet spot feel more comfortable, it increases the energy the batsman can transmit into the ball. Bats are made of willow harvested in winter, and this is the key to a good bat. A bat made from winter wood has thick cells, which make it tougher and more shock resistant. There have been few revolutions in the conservative world of cricket. This was one attempt.
A good Yorker dug out by Dennis Lillee with his aluminium bat, which he's using today.
The great Australian bowler Dennis Lillee used an aluminium bat in 1979.
Well, drove that one pretty well.
Technology can rapidly improve sporting performance, but in this case the chaps didn't like it. It just wasn't cricket.
Bit of confrontation here between the umpires, Dennis Lillee and Mike Burley, but there is no stipulation that Lillee cannot use that bat.
Lillee has violently thrown that bat away. Really is a very sad state of affairs in this ground.
For the time being, Eric's craft is safe.
There's only one leather to will a sound, and that is one thing I don't think they'll ever stop. It's just that sound. It's traditional and it's suitable, and they haven't got anything better.
Supporting the bowler in his duel with the batsman, his comrades in arms, the fielders. A good fielder needs great fitness, agility and technique to catch and throw the ball with pinpoint accuracy.
Should be gone.
It's both an art and a science.
Right over they go. Chipped in the airport.
Marshalling the fielders and directing the bowlers is cricket's general, the captain. Great captains are masters of motivation. In part 4, one of the greatest of them all, Steve Waugh. In this battle between batsman and bowler, the contestants must have the will to win. Cricket is a psychological war, and science can help cricketers develop the attitude of a world-class player. In Australia's state tournament, the New South Wales Blues are playing the Queensland Bulls in 2001. The Blues are doing poorly. Only one man has the mental strength to save them. This is the Australian captain, Steve Waugh. He scores a century, 100 runs, and saves the game.
You've got to have faith in your players and always believe that ultimately you're going to come through, and you've got to back yourself. From my position, batting-wise, we're in trouble, but I wanted to establish myself at the crease and then just keep a monitor on the run rate, and hopefully it wasn't going to get too far out of hand, and hope we had wickets in the hand at the end. But in those situations, you've got to back yourself to try and win it.
Steve Waugh is not used to losing. Since 1999, he's won 16 consecutive Test matches. Xenophon, the Greek historian, wrote that a general needs to be loving and tough, straightforward and crafty. Like a true general, Steve leads his team by example.
You've always got to try and motivate your players and give them positives. You don't want to be giving your players negatives. And I guess give them the belief that you think they can do the job. And I think that's really important, that they know that you're backing them in any situation out in the field, and that's probably the most important job of the captain.
One way of motivating players and intimidating the opposition is to use psychological bullying or sledging. Australian ex-wicketkeeper Rod Marsh is a past master.
I've always said that the best form of sledging is silence. For example, if you come to me on a cricket field and ask me a question and you're the opposition, I can look you straight in the eye and ignore you, then to me that's the greatest form of sledging.
Sledging is an integral part of cricket, but is it fair play?
There's different ways of people interpreting what sledging is. To me, I'd rather use the term mental disintegration. That is what the Australian side's all about. We obviously want to put pressure on the opposition players. We don't want to make sledging, as people call it, personal. We try and make it amongst ourselves and give off an aura and try and intimidate players when they get out in the middle. I think if we can put players under pressure, then we're going to try and do that.
Steve Waugh's Australian team are mentally tough enough to be world beaters. In comparison, this inner strength has been lacking in the English game. The young England players are trying to change this mindset with the help of sports psychologist Steve Bull.
It's a very individual thing. Players vary immensely in how they display their mental toughness. But essentially, it's very hard to be mentally tough without displaying the obvious qualities like perseverance, gritty determination, the ability to perform under extreme pressure, and in some senses, the ability to raise your game when it matters most.
Ironically, one of the examples of mental toughness Steve uses is the epic duel between English batsman Michael Atherton and South African bowler Alan Donald in 1998.
Michael Atherton, they're evading quite well. He was in full control there, kept his eyes on the ball.
Alan Donald bowled an incredibly aggressive spell of fierce fast bowling, where Atherton was being peppered left, right and centre. It was a very intimidating piece of cricket.
Just beautifully bowled, right at the throat.
He had to cope with that. He had to stay there, he had to see Donald off, and knowing that if he did so, he stood a chance of winning the match for England. And as it turned out, it was a critical period because England, as we know, went on to win the series.
Good hook shot. It was well directed at the batsman and beautifully played.
We tried everything this morning. Didn't make any difference.
A beautiful shot. Atherton has played that wonderfully well.
It was a classic display of Michael Atherton's gritty, completely focused determination and he really is a world beater in that department.
Beautiful. That's in front of square. It was a quick delivery, but Atherton just sailed into it.
Alex Tudor, working hard in the English National Academy, is appreciative of Steve's psychology lessons.
But you know, in sports psychology, we tell you it doesn't matter if you're bowling in front of 100 or 45. You're focusing on one thing, and that's to get the batsman out as a bowler, and the batsman is to get runs against the bowler. So it shouldn't really matter, but external things come in, and you know, hearing the crowd and stuff chant your name, or if they're giving you abuse, you can sometimes hear it. But some people thrive on it, and they love that sort of atmosphere in that battle.
Alex and his colleagues are hopeful they'll play for their country. When they do, science will have helped make them better cricketers. Science has shaped their training regime. New scientific methods will help them bowl faster, spin quicker, keep their eye on the ball, bat more effectively, throw accurately. Sports psychology is making them mentally tough enough to face the opposition. It may even help one of them become a captain. With science on their side, these new model cricketers may one day be ready to take on the best in the world.